What's going on, y'all? It's J-Spo Reviews here, back at it again with another video, man. Bringing you guys really my general thoughts on what I saw yesterday, which is a pretty big matchup brewing. And for anyone that did see what was going on with Battle Rap yesterday, I am talking about DNA and Eazy, the block captains, back and forth. I think they both have dropped 2 blogs apiece. It was like DNA, or it was really Eazy to start, which even though he was talking some shit, it was a little bit unlike the chiller side. Then DNA went full out, you know what I'm saying, had a lot to say, then Eazy again, and then DNA dropped yet another blog pretty late last night. So they're going back and forth, and this isn't like a new matchup that's been talked about. Obviously, these gentlemen went back and forth back in around 2021, 2022, and this is at a point that John and Suge still hadn't battled Eazy, and they were campaigning for the matchup heavy, and there was a point where Eazy was telling all these battlers no, he did not want to battle John, he did not want to battle Shotgun Suge, he did not want to battle DNA, and at the time he was getting matchups like Goods, K-Shine. So then there was a little bit of an inverse flip when DNA's talking about returning, right? Also, obviously, Eazy's battled a couple of those gentlemen. So then DNA goes away for a couple years due to his mother passing away, which always condolences for that. And now that he's coming back, one of the first people, when DNA said he wanted to return this year, that said, I will battle you, is Eazy the block captain. And it's kind of an inverse now, because DNA was like, no. He remembers at the time when Eazy was dubbing the battle, and now he's taking the inverse stance. It's my return battle. I don't want to share any of the benefits of my return, the bigger impact of me being away for so long and coming back. I don't want to share that with you. And it seemed like kind of the natural order of things, right? I don't think this matchup was ever super sought after from the community. I remember when it first came up, I wouldn't have been mad at it. I feel like a lot of people, especially with Eazy, always talking about his path and having to battle certain legends at some point for his overall career resume. At some point, Eazy and DNA will battle, is what we thought. But that wasn't like sought after at that moment when Eazy had all these other grudge matches and bigger matchups building up. And even now when it came up, I think people once again would have liked it, right, for DNA's return, so it adds a little bit more. But it wasn't like style clash-wise, like, damn, bro, it's Eazy and DNA time. And I think people have been a little bit more annoyed with DNA as time has went on, with him like saying he's going to return, but saying 2026. And then people kind of narrowed it down to Eunice, and I've even said this, Eunice looking like the next logical matchup for him, being that it seemed like he wanted to return on URL. There's been this SM talk in the air, the PG killer archetype that he holds versus the best, most popping new guy at the moment. So then people are like, all right, either return to the matchup that's here for you, or stop saying that you're going to return and you need X amount of money, right? But I do understand from DNA's perspective, even though people have been annoyed with this flip-floppy attitude with his return, some people even saying he's acting like a diva, but he went away from Battle Rap, and obviously, as he keeps letting us know, he's doing very good outside of Battle Rap, right? But if he comes back to Battle Rap, which is what's his plan after a return, you want one of two things on the return. You want either a huge opponent, you need a splash opponent, oh my god, he's back, and look at the matchup he's got. And I think for a lot of people, and if you've really seen what DNA's career was for a couple years before he left, he wants the Lux battle. I think to this day he wants the Lux battle, but I also think that he just understands the circumstances. That came very close to being booked before he lost to Jerry West. That it looked like the likely pathway for the next Lux battle. And that was even with Lux saying, yo, I just don't want to battle DNA. It's not a matter that DNA hasn't earned it, that it doesn't make sense. There's just no motivation for him to battle DNA. And you could throw a lot of money at the situation, but at the end of the day, if a guy just doesn't want to do it, you cannot force people to get on the stage and rap. You know what I mean? So if you're not going to get, which that would have been the huge opponent, you're going to want a lot of money on the return. Like, you got to get one of two things. I'm either going to get a big-ass check, or I'm going to get exactly who I want. And I feel like an easy matchup, though, for DNA, not figuratively, like easy, like level of difficulty, like an Eazy the block captain matchup, I feel like is going to be somewhat the best of both worlds. You can still get a big check for battling Eazy. He is a modern-era superstar. People get finicky about that word. You could say star, but either way, out of newly produced top-tier battle rappers in the last 5 years or so, Eazy is at like the top of that list in terms of impact and what he can bring to the table as well in terms of a matchup. So you still get a pretty big name on the return, and you can get paid a pretty decent check to battle Eazy. With the way DNA was kind of shooting down the matchup, in the history of them both just not wanting to battle each other at different points in time. I just figured this was out of the realm of possibility. So I was really pushing heavy for the DNA and Eunice matchup because, I didn't, DNA, I had heard, and I think Eazy said, already turned down a number over there, and that becomes even more complicated, than the already pre-existing relationship with DNA and URL. But after yesterday, and like I said, it started out with Eazy's blog talking about, there was a picture of, it was Arsenal, Eazy, and DNA spotted out in Orlando hanging out. And there was a picture of them. And then Eazy, after the fact, maybe a day, maybe 2 days after, talks about just seeing what DNA said on Hip Hop Is Real about him. He had some words about not wanting to do the matchup, right? And being like, damn, we just hung out in Orlando, and you had all this to say, you didn't even mention it to me, which I'm not going to go over every point and counterpoint they said in all the blogs, but DNA would later say, I didn't say anything too crazy about your name. I just spoke on what, like where I was at with the matchup. I don't have to tell you every single time your name is mentioned unless I said something like out of bounds. But Eazy goes on to what I expect most people like that are anti-DNA or not really caring for this DNA return to say, which is we don't care for a DNA return. It wasn't asked for. Some people are saying it's not something where people are like, damn, you have to come back. And just downplaying the impact of the matchup as a whole. And of course, losing to Jerry West on the way out. Like all of the things that if you're an upcoming opponent or someone that is going to battle DNA, you're going to take this stance. I think he was pretty reserved in his energy. Speaking on DNA basically not having the impact that he thinks he has. All these fans that he's got from the wrestling podcast and his other ventures outside of battle rap, that's not going to return with him when he does battle. So it was a little, it was the first shot in a sense. In Eazy's mind, it's probably a return shot for whatever DNA said in the Hip Hop Is Real interview. But then from there, DNA does a blog like middle of the day yesterday, early yesterday, and that's what really gets it kicked off. Speaking on Eazy not being the algorithm at all, like talking about the impact that he has, and that it's minimal to someone like DNA, where he had so many like almost like little quotable lines throughout where he's like, y'all could debate who won the battle, but I got haymakers in real life. You fed the culture, you fed the culture for a year or an era. I fed the culture for generations. And going into the things of how he brought Harry in to sponsor SM2 and some of the original golden era push of URL, something that I didn't know. And I tend to know a lot of these little battle rap history facts. I didn't know DNA's the one that brought Nakai in for King of the Dot, who also sponsored some of their biggest events for those that weren't around for the prime at King of the Dot, or when Nakai was helping fund battles for them. So he's speaking on that. He's speaking on how he doesn't need battle rap. Eazy the Block Captain needs battle rap. And at the end of the day with DNA's number, which has been a big point of contention, people saying that DNA might be pricing himself out of a matchup, he's saying that this is a number he's gotten before he left. And he said when he left, the money left in battle rap too. A little bit of a stretch. I don't think the money specifically follows DNA, although he has brought a ton of money and opportunities into the culture. But he's saying he asked for the same money that he didn't change or his price didn't change. Battle rap changed. Just the common demand for battles, how much people are getting paid in general. And basically just saying his price is his price, and he's not asking for anything that crazy. But he really went on the super offensive, speaking on, I did an interview about my cholesterol that did more than when I talked about Eazy. Like my health, my health and what I'm doing gets more views than talking about this matchup in general. So really at the core of this, it's a back and forth of, you don't have any fucking impact, I'm a legend, you don't have any fucking impact, you're not doing anything nowadays, you wouldn't have something to do nowadays if I didn't create the game for you. And a back and forth that you would expect between a newer age star and a legend. But that is like the base message, like summary for what these guys talked about in their blogs. If you want every joke, every quip, every impression, DNA got to, it was Teeth Wars last night. He got to talking about how he fixed his dental situation. He remembers interviewing Eazy when Eazy's fucking teeth were fucked up. So it was getting like not all the way personal, but it was getting more in like a battle realm, right? Like these guys really talking crazy about each other. But if you want every single thing of what they said, just go watch their blogs, man. They talked for like 40 minutes a piece in each blog, so there's more to break down than what I could talk about here. But the last part of it is I'm just going to quickly talk about what I liked from what both of them were talking about and why I'm super sold on the matchup now. Like I said, it's always a battle that I'd be down to watch. I always thought it was a good matchup. They have to see each other at some point. But now I'm like, I really want to see that, which just goes to show what some simple blogging and shit talking can do. This is promo. It doesn't always, you're not reinventing the wheel. You're just getting on camera and saying why I'm better than the other guy at everything battle rap related. They didn't even get all that personal throughout this dispute either. First thing I want to talk about is Eazy. And I understand he is a modern day battle rap superstar, right? And you know, that word, even when I've tried to define it, different names come into the fold. Maybe he's not a flat-out superstar the way a Hitman or Surf is. Well, he just isn't, right? But in terms of the last 5 years and like top tiers produced in battle rap, he's by far the most impactful that can kind of stand on his own 2 feet and bring something to the table when a legend is returning, or, you know, like, there's a reason to want an Eazy battle. And when I look at the way DNA's moved, especially the way he's kind of just not wanted to return versus Eunice, he even said Eunice could be a second battle back, but he does not want to return and go right into PG killer mode. I'm actually pretty understanding of that. Even though it's a matchup that I think is worth his time to return to, I'm understanding if he wants a bit of a bigger name. Eazy is that other option, for real, right? We've already kind of discussed my thoughts on the Lux matchup and other matchups that he could return to with big names. You'd start to have to really get out there, and Iron Solomon return versus him. We don't even know where the fuck Iron is. He waits till after Shoddy's done battling Geechee, maybe a DNA versus Shoddy, but that's even somewhat just taking a name that's had a rise in stock lately, like just for the sake of it. This is the one he's actually got backstory with. So when Eazy's talking about, you know, his impact and what he brings to the table for this, sometimes, you know, as he should, he's going to sell it maybe more than I would fully quantify, like what his overall impact is. At times, I think he talks like he's just the biggest battle rapper in the world, but it's completely understandable. DNA would not be entertaining this back and forth and doing this unless this is a matchup that he sees in his soon future. And I think that validates to an extent, maybe not the whole I'm the algorithm claim by Eazy, but it can't be he's actually just the smallest fish in the big pond, right? But he still always is finding himself in these back and forth returning legends, or legends that have a lot to say about him. So I'm understanding in his passionateness where it's like, I'm really out here for the last few years and I've been one of the most talked about topics. Yes, you're a legend and you have stats that we'll talk about in a second for DNA that might rank you above me all time and things of that nature. But in the last 5 years, I'm the one that's the more talked about. They seek for my matchups more than they seek for your matchups. So I am understanding of that, and he's doing exactly what he should do, being, even though he kind of shot first, being on the defensive since DNA's the first one that really dropped like a harsh blog out of the two. I'm understanding kind of that stance from Eazy. And then as for DNA, first of all, there's a lot of people, and even Eazy talking about people don't care when DNA returns or who really is checking for it. He's going to say that because they're going back and forth. But some of you saying like, you know, oh, nobody's asking for it, like it'll have no impact, or no one's watching DNA. He has over 100 million views all the time. He's like one of like 5, maybe 6 people with that statistic to his name. He is a top five, the 5th most viewed battle rapper ever. He is one of the more slandered battle rappers of all time. There's almost no one that's went through as much in terms of verbal abuse as DNA. Some would say it's deserved. Some just have never liked his style or his persona in battle rap. But whether you're watching him because you love him or watching him because you hate him, even the way he's promoting right now should show you he's going to be watched when he comes back. For better or for worse, you guys are going to watch the matchup. Is it like a Surf or Hitman level, same way we compared for Eazy? No, but that's like the biggest of the biggest of the biggest. There's a lot of still very important shit that happens that's not like the only, you know, the Mook, Lux, Surf, and Hitman, like the absolute like superstars, one of ones in our culture. So there is energy behind a DNA return, whether people want to admit it or not. And I'm understanding DNA talking crazy the way he is and being almost insulted by Eazy, who, granted, has been one of the bigger topics of the last 3 to 5 years in battle rap. But then when DNA gets in that history bag, talking about the sponsors he's brought to the culture, how long he's been here, and you know, I think something, you know, great that he said in his last blog is Eazy came to a sport that was built and got superstardom quick. You know, Eazy always talked about how Eazy had less time than all these other legends, but still made it to Bel Air and Super Bowl commercials and stuff before some of them, which is how you're supposed to talk your shit. But DNA saying you came to a culture that I built. While you came and became a superstar, I built this up so superstars could be built off it. I've been here since the beginning, and I 100% agree with that. It's just hard to talk history with someone or talk impact or, you know, contributions to the game him with someone that does as much, not just battle rap, like actually in the ring wise, but behind the scenes wise, like DNA. And DNA went through a whole portion talking about you could talk about, I'm the real businessman. I get paid when you guys rap. Maybe I didn't get the matchup, but I'm getting actually bread broken off. And he went a little bit behind the curtain. He was talking a little bit crazy. I don't know if he'd ever fully elaborate on those thoughts, because when you think about it, saying that he was not battling or was on the undercard, but was getting broken off a piece of bread from some of the larger battles, I'm not even sure if it's 100% true. He's talking about Lux and Mook battles. Sometimes he get a piece of bread. How does that work? But I think he was going into the behind the scenes, the darker details of battle rap, where you got to be in some of those rooms or know some people to get some of that info. It sounds really good in a blog. I don't know how much of it is true, but when it's someone that does have that decades of relationships built up and has that knowledge of behind the scenes, that's just a hard back and forth to have once you get to that level. When we talk contributions, money put in the game and money made. But with all that being said, I love the way both of them are talking. I love the stance that Eazy took, downplaying this man's return and saying, "What have you done for me lately?" And I love DNA saying, "You couldn't even talk like this if I didn't build this spot for you. If it wasn't for guys like me that actually made battle rap a sport worth getting money off of." So I want this matchup. Do I want it within the year? Yes. Is it going to happen? I don't know, because like I said, DNA is kind of doing the whole now I'm not battling until 2026. I'm busy. I'm going to have things to do. I think maybe this is him trying to have a steady, like a longer build up to the Eazy battle. So let's say they go back and forth a couple times like this throughout the next 4 or 5 months. And then, early in 2026, they book this battle. Maybe that's like the biggest situation, short of Lux just changing his mind and wanting to battle DNA, that DNA could get on the return. So it works out for him. And as for Eazy, while we're talking about how DNA, who does have limited matchups of what he could return to, Eazy the Block Captain was about to battle fucking Head Ice. DNA return battle is far above that in terms of interest, competitiveness, everything. So Eazy definitely has more matchups he could get. I believe before the end of the year, we are going to see some huge fucking matchups from him. Probably, maybe even bigger than this one. You know what I'm saying? So it's not that Eazy doesn't have other options, but if he was about to battle Head Ice, it is getting a little bit harder for him at times to lock down the battles. We know some of those bigger battles, like a Twerk, like a Tay-Rock, has to be booked on neutral ground. It's not going to happen on Trenches or Chrome, and he's not going back to URL. I see a couple people like DNA and Eazy on URL. They're gearing up. We have to use our brains. We have to use our common sense. People aren't battling on URL. So we'll see what league wants to pay for it down the line. I see a lot of people saying TBL. I think that just seems to make the most sense with the bigger battles they're booking, and there's that inherent neutral ground to it. So we'll go with that for now and see if they book it. But I'm sure there's not as many big leagues anymore, right? Because I don't want a smaller league to book this battle either. I want like a premier battle rap league to book it. But they're selling it the way the true top tiers do, and hopefully this is a little less than the new guys. All they're really doing is blogs. I know their platforms are bigger. Everyone says build your own platform, but it's so easy to do this face-to-face, just like talk without talking crazy or it going too far, talking about almost fighting or anything like that. All of their points are within the confines of our sport that they could actually talk about within the battle. So love what I'm seeing. Love the energy from both sides. I won't speak on predictions or anything like that until one day we actually see a flyer and it's booked. But now, of course, I want your guys' opinion on this one. First of all, who do you agree with more? Maybe DNA or Eazy? Is there a side that you're rocking with? And how do you feel about the matchup now? I think most people are more hyped for it now than before. Maybe some of you still don't care for it. You might not just be an Eazy fan, or you don't care for a DNA matchup, but are you more excited? And then hypothetically, if they were to battle, who do you have winning? The way DNA's talking reminds me of the way he talked to Averb, Mickey Fax. A lot of people got him losing to Verb, but I think that's an incredibly debatable, really, really good grudge match they built up. And Mickey Fax is like one of his best wins, one of his best performances ever. So, I like the bag DNA's in, but, you get Eazy angry enough. There was a reason that at one point in time, people were saying he might be pound for pound the best battle rapper in the world. But it's been J Smo Reviews again here, y'all. Like I said, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know your opinions on this back and forth. And I'm going to catch you on the next one, man. Peace.